Welcome to Alumni Voices, where we explore the inspiring journeys of our accomplished alumni. Join us as we sit down with graduates from various academic programs as they share their invaluable experiences during their studies and illuminate how the skills they honed have propelled them in their post-graduation professional endeavors. Tune in to be inspired by these remarkable alumni and discover how education can be a powerful catalyst for a fulfilling and impactful professional life. This is Alumni Voices, where past meets present to illuminate the way forward. I'm Laman, Tasch, an Associate Dean of Social Sciences at SNHU. And here with me today, there are Brooke, Brigham from our career team, and two alumni guests, Justin and Jenn. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
We're very grateful for them to come here and to share their stories. What brought them to the program? What in the program they learned that helped them in their professional journey. And we hope that for all our listeners, they will have a lot of interesting advice and interesting direction, especially for those who are right now in the programs and as passionate they are about all knowledge and skills that they're learning. If they're still undecided or unsure, we hope this conversation will be eye-opener. My first question to both of our alumni will be your story. What is your story? What brought you to the program to begin with? Which program you graduated from? What brought you to this program? And what did you learn in the program that helped you to end up in the professional journey where you are right now, in the professional place where you are right now? Jenn, let's start with you.
Hi, thank you, Laman. My name is Jenn Ramirez, Robson. I use she, her pronouns. I live in the Pacific Northwest, about 20 minutes south of Seattle. So thank you for having me here today. And I graduated from SNHU year 2015 with a degree in sociology. So a little bit about me and my journey. I served in the United States Air Force, and I departed the Air Force in 1990, and I was able to use GI Bill benefits to obtain my associate's degree at that time, which served me pretty well. Through much of my career, but at one point in the early 2010s, I had an opportunity to step in as an executive director for a nonprofit that was serving children, youth, and families living in low-income apartment complexes. And we were actually doing a lot of research, and we live in the home of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, so there's always research happening. And so what I was finding was that I didn't understand the language of researchers when they are coming into communities. And I also saw a gap between community stories and how those were being relayed to researchers and how that was coming together. So, and I had been looking at that time, I had children that were getting toward two children that were getting toward being teenagers. And I decided that I wanted to also be an example to my children as well as children and families that I served in the nonprofit. And so I went back to school at 42. And, I had done a lot of research and a full-time job, full-time mom, and I wanted to look at an online education, and I found Southern New Hampshire University. And, this was a brick and mortar college, and that was really important to me, fully accredited. The pricing was fair, and I said, I'm going to go for this. And I was so glad I did. It was hard. I had no idea how hard it was going to be going back to school, but it was really great. And at the time, it was called the Community Sociology program, which I thought was really interesting. This idea of not only studying individuals, but studying communities, because so much of my work involved being in community, conveying the stories, the experiences of community, particularly historically excluded and marginalized communities. And I felt like my experience now, I did find I already had a lot of experience that the younger students had. So sometimes that was interesting. I think I was kind of a mentor in that way, which was sort of fun. But it did it really helped me to gather that and gain that knowledge and language around research, social science research, and how do we do that? What does that mean? What are the pitfalls, right? And I felt so empowered in how I could at least, really partner with researchers, because, one of the things I learned is there's so many different ways that you can build research, right? And design research, and how important it is to really, I think there's a tendency of researchers to feel like they have to feel apart from the subjects of their research. And it's like, no, actually, you really need to understand. And so one of the things I was just reflecting on for this call, prepping for this call, is how much, you learn about quantitative research and how to build surveys and do those things. But also, I think one of the best experiences I had was the ethnographic research and just observing people. And I learned so much from that, of, just having, that kind of research lens to observation, but really knowing how to observe and then ask follow-up questions. What is this experience? What was happening for you right there? And I learned a lot. And so, I just completed a huge research project where we thought we were going to do large community forums with detailed survey questions. We found out that wasn't going to work with the communities that we were serving. So we scaled it down to small focus groups and individual interviews, and we were able to do it in a way that was authentic, that was, it still met the needs of the project. And we learned so much more by using those techniques. And I was able to really, I've really been able to use what I learned at SNHU, as well as, I had been finding barriers in my job where I felt like I didn't meet the qualifications anymore, because I was at a place in my career where the executive director job was temporary, but I knew I needed more than that on my resume. That plus an associate's degree. I'd kind of gotten that was all as far as it was going to take me. So I have found that having the bachelor's degree plus my experience has really catapulted me. The position that I'm in now, I'm the Vice President of Employment Services for an organization called Northwest Center, and we support people with disabilities in the community, birth through career. And I oversee a division of over 100 people, serving over 1,000 people each year with disabilities in the community. And and again, I learned so much, and it was so great to have relevant college education that I was able to use in my career. I think so many times, if you're really young, it maybe doesn't, you're not learning as much, because I was already in the field. I was able to soak in so much more, and I was able to do it online, which, a lot of folks my age, they do all of their education in person. So this really, I was able to support my kids in going to college online, because I knew how it was happening. I am also now a college trustee for a community college in my community, and having my experience both, because I, as I said earlier, had started at a community college, and I knew the online current sort of technology that is being used in the college settings. It's really added so much to my career and my education and my experience. I was just so thankful to have the opportunity to give back and to talk about my experience, because you all don't know that.
And I see that Brooke has a question. Brooke.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey, Jenn. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. And thank you for your service and all that you've done for your own community and our larger communities as well. Just going over your story, I'm in career services with SNHU. And so I think that my big question is, you mentioned these research skills that you were able to put into practice from your learnings at SNHU and your programs. It got me thinking about soft skills and how important they are to our learners right now as they go out into the workforce. Do you have, I guess, one or two other skills that you think are just so encapsulating and important for our learners to hold on to and to learn as they move into getting recruited by employers?
I think one of the things I look for in people who I interview with is always learning. There's even an interview question. It's like, what have you learned in the last year? And so I am looking for those lifelong learners. And so I've always been proud of the fact that I didn't get my bachelor's degree until I was 45, because I'm able to demonstrate that I'm not afraid of technology, and I'm always looking to learn and grow. Because if you're not, that's not somebody that somebody wants typically on their team, is somebody who's given up on learning.
Thank you. Yes, that mindset, right? That mindset that is restless for learning. That is so important. Thank you for sharing. And Justin, now, what was your journey? What brought you to the program? And if we think about those soft skills, what soft skills helped you in your professional journey?
Yeah, so my name is Justin Daly. I'm a political science undergraduate student, graduated in January of 2019. What brought me to SNHU, ironically enough, was my daughter was born with a minute disability. She was born with a tumor in her left leg that has since been reclassified as a childhood cancer, and it's called a Kaposiform hemangioendothelioma with Ramirez syndrome. Yeah, one of those 90 million syllable doctor's words. She went through the first year of her life on Children's Hospital and did chemotherapy. And that's what brought me to SNHU. I was at home working while my family was at the hospital, so I could pay bills and stay on top of things. And instead of feeling sorry for myself and using that as an excuse to go to the bar and drown my sorrows away, I said I was going to use it as a productive thing to better my life and my family's life. And so I made the phone call after seeing an SNHU commercial on TV during one of the NASCAR races. And next thing I know, I was on my journey to becoming a student and well on my way to graduation. And since then, I've worked at some of the greatest companies online in the world. I worked for, first off, Patreon. I was a content moderator and trust and safety analyst at Patreon. And I am currently a member safety and recovery support technician for LinkedIn. So I wouldn't have been able to do either one of those without my journey through SNHU. And speaking of the soft skills, I do believe that the best thing that I learned and I took away, I don't believe was intended to be taught to me while I was online going to college, but it was my virtual communication skills. Not only like we're doing right now on, the different apps and everything, but the proper way to talk to people through email, through, different text, so you can convey emotion through that without it being lost. That was one of the biggest things, because that's what I use the most today in my job and my job at Patreon. As for the political science part that I use, I have to analyze and deconstruct policy constantly. Internal policies, external policies, government policies, they're all over the place. And I learned a lot about how that all works with my political science classes. So yeah, that's pretty much my story, and I'm very grateful for everything that I've been able to accomplish since. So
that's so great, Justin, and such a amazing story. Laman, I hope you don't mind me asking one other question here.
No, absolutely. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I am curious to know from both of you or whoever would like to answer, if you all had, while you were in your program at SNHU, any type of internship experience or experiential learning that you went through that maybe contributed to something great that was on your resume and helped you in the workforce. Anything like that? I know that you both have different stories and different types of experience that you were coming into your education with, but just curious if you'd like to share.
I can go first if you don't mind. I didn't do any internships. By the time I actually started school, I was a little bit older, and I graduated when I was a little bit older. But I did get inducted into the National Society for Leadership and Success, as you can see here with the one that's here on my wall in my office. And in order to be a member of that, you have to do some volunteer work, and you have to be in the community, and you have to, really put the effort into it. And other than my political science degree that I earned, that is probably the most fantastic and my most appreciated accomplishment from school. So, and everybody that I tell that was a member of the NSLS, they just love it. And I've met so many people through the program. And yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Justin. And yes, that volunteer work is just as important on the resume. So I love the NSLS. I'm a member myself.
I would say, well, I sort of interned at the organization that I ran at the time, but it was in a different capacity because I was, I was there in the after school programs. I was there when they were meeting with parents, which is not something usually an executive director does. Right. And I learned something that I later learned is, a tenet of lean process improvement, which is go to where the work's done and really understand what happens. And I have carried that through every job since. Like when I start out, I'm doing field visits so that I really, truly understand what both the experience of staff and clients or participants is so that I can make better. And I do that on a regular basis because, and I lean on the expertise of my field staff. And I would not have had that lens if I hadn't kind of done the internship experience in my organization.
And you both done it with your incredibly busy schedules. So I don't know, double applaud, triple applaud, whatever I can do here. I mean, it blows my mind how much we can do in those 24 hours, which flies usually very fast. And on this note, I would like to ask both of you, think about people who are right now in our programs, right? Again, social sciences programs, sociology, political science, anthropology, psychology, who learn, they learn a lot. We know that they learn a lot in terms of knowledge. But what advice would you have them to make the most of that learning experience? What, based on journey that you had, what you would recommend them doing while they are on the program to make the most, to benefit the most from it? Whoever wants to go first.
I'd be happy to. I would say, and I found my kids, my adult kids now, but they had one of them had a hard time doing this, but ask for help as early and often as you need it from your instructors, from your advisors. I had a couple of amazing advisors with SNHU who really, because you're not always going to connect with every professor, right? And sometimes there was a little bit of some crunchiness there, and they were able to help me navigate through that. But most of my professors were fantastic. And if you just reached out early, don't wait until the end of the term, but let them know if you have something going on, because oftentimes they can tell you what you can kind of put off, what you can, or what you can make up. And I even reaching out and asking my family for help. I used to do all of the domestic chores in the house and on top of the full-time job and the schoolwork and everything else. And I finally had a breakdown where I'm like, I can't do everybody's laundry anymore. And guess what? My kids picked up a great skill that they take into adulthood is they know how to do their own laundry. So I guess don't worry that people aren't going to think less of you if you ask for help. Nobody treated me as if I was less than because I asked for help. Most people, 99.9% of the folks who I talked to, they were happy to help.
Yeah, and I second that about the great student advisors through SNHU. Lauren, my last student advisor, was the one who, ironically enough, told me I should start a LinkedIn account, and that's what actually led me to getting a job with LinkedIn. So, yeah, I do agree with that. So, as far as any advice that I could give, the biggest bit of advice that I received while I was in the program was don't get discouraged. No matter how troubling it seems, no matter how much pressure you have, there is an end to the program. You will be able to make it. You just have to have the determination to succeed. And yeah, I would also probably add, don't be afraid to try new things. Just because your program that you're in currently or the recent programs that you graduated from are what you have set towards your goal, that doesn't always mean that that's where you're going to end up. I started my political science degree with the hopes of going to work in Washington, and now I'm working the farthest away from Washington that I can. So yeah, just know that there's something that you can count on at the end of it. And yeah, just keep that overall goal in sight.
And if I could just tag on to that, SNHU does have a great academic reputation. It may not be as recognizable as, say, Harvard or Stanford, but people respect that you have your degree from SNHU. And, so be loud and proud. I still do almost 10 years later, and I hear nothing but positive responses back.
Thank you very much. Great advice to all our listeners, to everybody who is in the program, and get great encouragement too, because we all get busy in life, right? Things always happen, but again, knowing that there is help, there are so many, I feel like, even culturally, right, where sometimes are like, we need to be able to do what serves us the best. So again, great advice, ask for help, don't be discouraged. There's always light. Like tunnel might be, some tunnels are shorter, some tunnels are longer, but every tunnel ends at the end. So just going there. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Brooke, do you have any questions? Any other?
No more questions, but thank you both so much for your time. And just, I think I wrote it in the chat too. I feel like your advice should all be on a poster somewhere or on tops of notebooks, and it's just some great feel-good words that I think tell such a great story. And I would just like to put in a little commercial for career services at SNHU too. Please, all listeners, reach out, alumni or current students, whoever's listening, reach out to SNHU Career Services, speak with an advisor. Both Jenn and Justin mentioned having some amazing conversations with their academic and any advisors and faculty and staff here at SNHU. So reach out to Career and we'll help you to plan out your path and your experience as well.
And one last thing I would like to add is, create those natural relationships. Even though you're online, there were a few of my colleague students that were in multiple classes, and we formed lifelong relationships. We met each other in person for the first time at graduation, but we sat together, we were there together. It was an amazing experience.
That's so amazing. I feel like we right now are all going to be connected for a lifetime now. I'm going to go find everyone on LinkedIn.
Yeah. And in life, you never know. People are moving, people are traveling. So you never know when you're going to be in the area. So I would say again, like if we're online, it doesn't mean that we will be online forever. So just having, back to what you said, having your mind open to something that can happen, that everything can happen actually, and we're not limited. And be mindful of how we communicate and how we build those relationships, as Justin pointed out, especially in today's world, right? So much relationships are happening virtually, and like it's a different world right now. So using it as a tool to build up and to make our lives and lives of other people better. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us and for encouraging our listeners.
Thank you for the chance to come and do this. And one last shameless plug, everybody should check out the SNHU LinkedIn page. There's a lot of great people on there. Conversation is awesome, and not just because I work for LinkedIn. So yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Nice to talk with everyone. Thank you for inviting me.